Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight. This is Thought Leaders. This is a discussion just to have with everything that's been going on in the Black community, we wanted to have a thoughtful discussion. We believed it was necessary to talk about those things and to just have a good discussion on crime and justice in the Black community. We want to thank Brandon Straka and the Walkaway campaign for putting this together. We really appreciate it and for allowing us to use the platform. So thank you again for tuning in. Please like, share, and just have fun, comment, and we will be right here to have this great discussion. I want to introduce to you your panelists for tonight. First, we have Burgess Owens, who is an author, an American politician, and retired American football safety who played 10 seasons in the NFL. He founded Second Chance for Youth, a Utah-based nonprofit organization dedicated to helping troubled and incarcerated youth. And an outspoken advocate for conservative values, he intends to return Utah's 4th congressional district back to Republicans. We also have Maj Toure. He's an American political activist and rapper, a native of North Philadelphia. Toure founded the educational nonprofit organization Black Guns Matter in 2016. The organization advocates for the right to keep and bear arms and promotes responsible ownership of firearms within African American and urban communities. Next, we have YG Nightstorm. He is the author of books 7 Kids and 2 Ex-Wives, How Fixing Me Fixed My Broken Family, and All Talk, No Action. YG is a man on a mission, helping people find the strength within themselves to deal with life's adversities. We have Olivia Rondeau. Rondo.
Yeah.
I just got that right earlier. I'm so sorry, Olivia.
You're fine.
But she is a Pennsylvania campus correspondent reporting liberal bias and abuse on college campuses for Campus Reform. She is a political science major and wrestler, which I think is amazing, at the East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania. She is a conservative activist and journalist who is passionate about social and cultural issues and giving campuses a place to open up about conservative students. Joy Vila, hi Joy, is an American singer and songwriter. Vila is known for her attention-grabbing outfits, which she has worn to the Grammy Awards. And there's one in particular that caught my attention. It was the one that you wore that said, "Make America Great Again." That's
Yes.
when I first said, oh my God, who is this? And
right.
Yes, we have Benji Irby, a political commentator and the host of Unpopular Opinion with Benji Irby on LifeZet TV. He's affectionately known as the Ratchet Republican, coming with the facts and receipts. Always. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. Again, the purpose of this event is just to have a thoughtful discussion about crime and justice in the Black community. As some of you are aware, back in February, Ahmaud Arbery was shot by Travis McMichael in Georgia, and the case no one was arrested until the case gained national attention just a few weeks ago. So that's kind of how this debate was sparked. There are people that stand on either side feeling like Ahmaud Arbery didn't deserve to die. And then there are those that feel like he should not have lunged for the gun. There's so many different opinions, which kind of sparked the reason for us to come together and talk about this. We're going to talk about this case and other issues that concern the Black community. So I wanted to ask each panelist to just kind of come in and give us your stance or your take on the case and how you feel about it, starting with Burgess.
Okay, can I just kind of set up as a prefix real quickly? I've been uh, I've been a conservative all my life, and I've been a Republican for the last 36 years. I'm just so pleased to see what's happening today in our country. People like ourselves, this kind of a movement in which people are really just speaking up and highlighting their love for our country. It's been a long time coming, guys. I just want to thank each one of you guys for having the courage to stand against the norm, and that's what our country is all about. I just want to say thank you, and I'm just so glad to be part of this panel. So, I want to believe in the rule of law and the due process. First of all, from what I can see, I don't think a young man should have died through this process. Now, what comes out of it, how where we go with this, I think should start off with the local authorities, making sure that they're looking at it and seeing the background behind it the whole bit. But I'm willing to kind of keep my powder dry until I really understand a lot more of what's happened with this. I will say that what has always concerned me is how quickly people rush out to make decisions without having the facts, without really knowing what's behind it all, and then applying that to our entire country, which we shouldn't do. If this was something that was not called for, people should be held accountable for it. But let's not do what the leftist loves to do, which is broad brush our entire country and call us something that we're not. When we're all about making sure we get the truth, make sure people are held accountable. This is a country of hope and coming together. So let's make sure we don't let anything divide us, particularly things like this when people get it wrong and should be paying a price for it.
Maj, can you chime in?
Sure. First, thanks to everyone for doing this panel and I'm seeing so many established, up and coming, and super duper established people, having a discussion about something that affects our communities, affects America in general. I want to say thank you for everybody for sharing your time. A lot of us probably won't get this much downtime as this whole Corona thing is going on, but nonetheless, thank you everybody for that. It's my view that if we want to push forward for the ideal of what we want America to be, we have to be fair. We have to be when it's clear, miscarriages of justice. We have to be honest about that. The fact that this happened in February and because of public pressure, we can identify that as things that sometimes people on the left do, but the reality is, in historical context, speaking up for injustices is very American. That's something that us on the right should be doing as well. The only reason why we're here in regards to the Ahmaud Arbery case is because there were miscarriages of justice. There were people that law enforcement officers were there to arrest that, the killer. And, a district attorney decided to do the opposite. And I don't think this is a partisan issue. I think this is a unifying, justice issue. And when you start to peel back the layers of that onion and you see how many deceptive district attorneys, the levels of corruption that were there, it's almost impossible, as well as we ain't even got to talk about the irresponsible gun ownership that went along in this scenario. So I think that this is a unifying force, not only for the conservative movement, but to remove some of the dead weight for people that have been hiding behind the label of conservative, but are actually more statists. So I think that's it's always a good thing to cut those cancers out early. And so I think that, if as the information is showing itself and the facts that some statists say that they want, as they're coming more and more out, it looks as if this young man was murdered, maybe accidentally. And I don't think it was a bloodlust or race-based per se, but his skin color definitely, in my opinion, had something to do with that. And that is not a sweeping indictment of all Americans, white, melanated, or non-melanated. So, I agree with, the elder, in front of me saying that as well.
YG?
Okay, can everybody hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, being the fact that I'm in Georgia and this happened in my backyard, also having the extreme sensitivity of understanding the loss of a child. My oldest son, Victor, was killed in 2008, the oldest of all of my babies. And I understand the pain that parents go through when you're dealing with the loss of life. And looking at this situation, and you see how things have been going on in the country where everybody getting into their tribes. And of course, the media wants to divide us and make this all about race. I was having a talk last week about this, and I simply made the statement that if anyone, regardless if you are white or black, male or female, if you actively hunt someone down and take their life, you should be prosecuted swiftly, and due process shall go through enacting justice. And one thing we have to understand is that a lot of people want to make this, oh, white and black, and some people want to do that successfully, and that's fine. But the question that I raised to everyone whom I was speaking to, and there's about 500 people in the room, is that it's sad that this young man lost his life. But why? Why does it only matter that a Black life matters to the media, to social media, and to people who want to get out here and march and protest? Why does it only matter when we die at the hands of a white person, but we can die at the hands of a fellow Black person and nobody cares? There is no media coverage. There is nothing going on. We have to get past this thing of tribalism and race in this country and start respecting life, period, and start respecting the equalization and the balance of justice, period, because justice should not come with a skin color. It should come because it's the right thing to do.
Olivia, can you give us your stance on the case?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I know I'm a college student, so I'm not going to come on here and act like I know about life and I know about the whole world. I know what's going on and all that kind of stuff, but I do have pretty strong beliefs on this issue, stronger than most issues that I've talked about on my social media and YouTube channel before. So there's two main things. First of all, I'm adamant, 100% adamant that he did not deserve to die, that he was murdered, that these two men, father and son, actually three men, the guy that was recording the video, tracked him down. I'm not sure if it was with the intent to murder him, but they did bring their weapons. They did, like they were offensive in my opinion, in my point of view. And then the other side is the optics. So I think Black conservatives and conservatives in general need to severely check their optics, because we have certain people pushing the narrative that, oh, he was a criminal. He was breaking into his house. He was trespassing on some property. You know, he deserved what got to him. He tried to wrestle the gun away. That is not how to attract more Black people to the Republican Party, to the right. That is not how you Blexit. That is not how you walk away. So that's the optics side of it for me. And then I do agree with you, YG. The other side is kind of like the leftist optics, where it's like, they don't care that the same thing could happen to just a random Black kid in the ghetto shot by another Black kid. They don't care. So I think there's two sides of it that are very valid. But my strongest point is that he did not deserve to die.
Thank you. Joy?
There's so much craziness with this story. And one of the things is, I love what Maj said too, is, well, first of all, I think that this would have been a normal case that nobody would have cared about. Yes, there was corruption, but the media doesn't really care about corruption unless it's used, like YG said, for some sort of political gain or some sort of story, because he's Black and these two guys were white. Now, when I look at the facts, it looks like there was an immense amount of corruption. I believe, I agree with Olivia. I don't think he deserved to die. There was a gun. He could have been accidentally killed. But the fact of the matter is, these guys were looking to shoot him down. They thought he had been the burglar in their neighborhood. But what did they have to face to put that argument out there for? What were the facts? Did they actually think they knew what he looked like? Did they just think this guy's Black? We don't like him. We don't know that. We don't know what's in their heart. But the fact of the matter is they killed a person. They shot a person, and then they had premeditated to hunt this guy down. Whether he's Black, whether he's white, this is wrong. This is a justice issue. I don't believe it should be bipartisan. I think that that's stupid. Take away all the political optics from this, and this is just simply a crime that happened. And these two men have finally been arrested. They deserve to be in jail. This is horrible. This guy was just minding his own business and was targeted by someone who thought he was a criminal. And that's wrong. We have justice in this world for a reason. You know, we have ethics, which are personal. Obviously, these two men acted unethically by hunting another person down. Now, of course, the media is going to pay more attention to this because he was Black. He was young. You know, he was smiling. He looked like somebody's brother. He looked like it could be one of my cousins. And your heart just bleeds for that. But the fact that the media is going to use this to now say like all white people are hunting down Black people, that's unfortunate. And his legacy, who he is, deserves more than that. He deserves justice, but it doesn't deserve to be, him and his family don't deserve to be a political pawn. And I agree that certain conservatives, certain, Democrats, whoever's using this story as a political furthering to get their story out there to make themselves look better, it's disgusting. This is simply a justice matter, and no matter what side of the political aisle you're on. That's my viewpoint, but he should not have died.
Benji, your stance.
Yeah, Shamika, this is absolutely wrong on every level. I definitely was totally against this from the beginning. I mean, you have these two random men who decided to protect a property they didn't own and hunt down and kill this guy. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And even more to piggyback on what Olivia was saying, the optics now of all this, knowing all of us as Black conservatives, knowing what regular Black folks, regular Democrats, regular folks that we know and see, the folks we argue with every day, what they're dealing with, what they're seeing on TV, what narratives they've been fed. And for Black conservatives to come out and like have this whole thing about trying to push this criminal element and pushing that he's a bad guy, he did this. I don't care if he had the whole damn house on his back. He still deserves to be killed. We still don't have people who want to be random police officers and police departments and want to go around and shoot people at will. This is absolutely wrong. I feel like optically, this is our chance as Black conservatives to step up and step above those who did not step up for the humanity of this matter. People in the administration have spoken out about it. Lord knows Pastor Darrell Scott has been going in about it. This is a man who has been on Air Force One with President Trump. So it's not like the administration stance is this. But unfortunately, as good as the administration handled it, as good as President Trump handled it, and I saw him interviewed talking about he was a nice young man, as good as Ivanka Trump has been, as good as even Sarah Huckabee Sanders has been, the story to the Black community is what certain Black conservatives want to go out here and do for whatever reason. I'm not trying to put motives on anybody or whatever. I'm not that person, but it just looks crazy. And I feel like if you can't understand that this is something that affects Black people. I myself have been to Brunswick, Georgia, and not to be Obama-esque, but I could say, this could have been me. If random people can just shoot people any day and you're not sensitive to how that feels to regular Black people at home, then you need to just vote for Trump in November, put on your MAGA hat, and stop talking to Black folk because you ain't the one, period.
Now, with that being said, we can all just kind of exhale and relax, and let's get into the conversation. And I want anybody who has something to say now, this is not going in order, just time to talk. As it relates to Ahmaud Arbery's case or similar cases, is white supremacy an issue in the Black community?
I'll take this one. White supremacy is a myth. White supremacy, to believe that one particular group of people is superior to another, it's actually white inferiority. It turns into Black inferiority if you believe it. I think that there's we have American history, world history. We are littered with melanated people's contributions to world history. I can take you to, even if you isolated the one thing, Joy's here, music, jazz, hip hop. We created that melanated people in America during captivity or poverty. So this concept or this notion that white supremacy exists, no, it's a white inferiority complex, that certain people or certain media outlets have attempted to try to make people look as if there's a victim. Okay, so all of this oppression conversation on certain levels, is there systemic racism? Is there bias and bigotry? Absolutely. We can talk about redlining. We can talk about, gun control, which is clearly racist. We can have that discussion all day, like actually racist things. But to isolate that to America, which is the world's most powerful nation currently, is only a few hundred years old. If you want to talk about Timbuktu, Songhai, whatever African nation, if you want to talk about the melanated beings that were on this land, Turtle Island, before America came to be, which were melanated people, the speck of time that European control and that global presence has existed has been very, very short. When you talk about books like They Came Before Columbus, African Origins of Civilization, when you step back the timeline, everybody's blip becomes very, very small. But when you step back from that timeline long enough, you see that all empires, melanated or not, have shared the global stage. So this concept of race, this concept of white supremacy is a falsehood and a farce. If you accept it, then you can fall for it. It's like basketball, baby. If I can pump fake you, I can get the foul and maybe get the and one. If I can bluff you, I can beat you in poker. So no, white supremacy isn't an issue in the Black community. Ignorance by people that control institutions that may be white, whether that's any of the areas of human activity, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, you name it. Small pockets of very biased people that have ascended to certain levels of power have created curriculums and passed that off through media. That is the problem in the Black community. But we could beat that with being armed, a little bit of knowledge of self, and getting some paper. So that's my view on it.
Right. I totally agree with you. I always say that I don't believe in white supremacy, because if I did, then in my opinion, I would have to believe in Black inferiority, and I'm not inferior to anyone. And I have 3 children. When it comes to my children, I don't feel like they should have the outlook on the world or America, the same outlook that maybe my mother or my grandmother or great grandmother had. Things are different. And so I don't want them to step out already feeling like everybody's against them.
Right. So can I add to this, guys? I was very fortunate. Many of you guys are, you're much younger. I grew up in the 60s, in the days of KKK, Jim Crow, segregation. But I grew up in a community that was very proud of who they were. This community that for decades, 40s, 50s, and 60s, because they believed in family, industry, God, and America, that they literally led our country. This is where we're losing out the battle, because the Marxists love to steal our history. Karl Marx once said, the first battleground is the rewriting of history. You steal our history, you steal our pride, guys. And what's happened, I know this because I grew up in it. We had a higher percentage of Black Americans entering the middle class, men matriculated from college, men committed to marriage, and a percentage of entrepreneurs. Over 40% of Black Americans during that time was entrepreneurs, which translated over 50% of us being part of the middle class across our country. So no, it has not been white supremacy has been our demise. It's been Black elitists, those who live among us, who will say they love us and say they're members of us, and then they vote for every anti-Black Black American policy that's put before them by their fellow white Marxists and socialists. And we've been dealing with that. We now have the lowest business ownership, the highest employment in government. I go through a litany of stuff that it goes through everything that we can now see that's been a drain on our community. It's happened over the last few years, last 4 or 5 decades, because we've had a leadership that's not cared about the people they're supposed to represent. And I love the fact we're finally getting people that are articulate enough. Olivia, I tell you, you warm my heart. The fact that a young person like yourself can be as courageous as you are, articulate as you are, and put together your thoughts. That's what we need now. We need courageous young people who can articulate the American way, the American dream, and stand up against the bullies and cowards that have in the past have made us sit back because they call us names and we just fall back from it. So no, it's not white supremacists. It's Black elitists and now white elitists, and we just need to make sure that Americans of all races, cultures, creeds, and backgrounds understand that we're fighting against an ideology that has always been anti-American.
Benji.
Well, I believe that white supremacy and this whole idea of institutional racism are more so they're not just that they're phony and fake. I just think that they are cover-all excuses for the failures of our Black leaders in the Democrat Party. Because rather than look at what they're doing and look at the money they're making from Russia, China, Ukraine, all that. I mean, let's look at Maxine Waters. It's go push back on the Trump people, push back on them. When my job as a citizen is not to push back on anyone. That's why I put you in office, to push back. So when they talk about all this racism and all this stuff that's been happening, I mean, let's even look at the police brutality. These people ran Buttigieg and they ran they ran de Blasio for president. But I thought the Black Lives Matter. I thought that we're supposed to push back on these people, but then you run for president and that's all okay. But it's all Trump's fault. But Trump is not running by his police department. Trump is not running by as no one's mayor. But then again, we can always put white supremacy, because that stops us from asking our Black Democrats, where's our money at? Where is the fact that we have the most powerful, biggest Black congressional caucus in Congress? They have the biggest one. We are bigger than the Latinos, bigger than anybody else, and yet they can't get it done for Black folks after all these years. NAACP, all these big organizations of Democrat Black folks are not getting it done. And when we go to them, we ask them, what's up with the hood? Why don't we have anything? Oh, it's Donald Trump. It's white supremacy, just like it was George Bush and every other Republican before him. If they really cared about Black folks, the first day Donald Trump came in office because he wanted to work with them, they'd have said, yo, you're getting jobs back from China? Great. Bring them over as some Black folks. They don't care about Black communities. They care about power. And the only way they can get all the Black people in America to think all alike, the only thing we have in common is our past with slavery and things of that nature. They're going to keep doing that over and over and over again. And I was telling my liberal friend actually just 2 days ago, the reason why I can't do the Democrats anymore is because they cannot have a conversation with me without talking about slavery in my race. I was born in 1983. I was nobody's slave. So why are we going back in a time machine every 2 years, 4 years, bring up all these slavery narratives? We have Barack Obama, who's supposed to be, Barack the Magic Negro here, who was supposed to be this amazing president. After 8 years, you couldn't do anything about white supremacy. When you were not the most powerful Black man, you're the most powerful white man, any man on the entire planet for 8 years, but you couldn't do for Black folks in that time? And you expect me to be going after these people? You people are nuts. It's all foolishness. If they wanted Black folks to be equal, if they wanted Black folks to get what we're supposed to get in this country, it can happen tomorrow. President Trump is waiting there. If they want to make a deal, we have a deal-making president right now, but they don't want to make the deal, period.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
I agree with like large parts of everything that all of you have said so far. I just wanted to bring up the actual racist institutions that still exist. I think we've all acknowledged that racism and ignorance still exists, but I kind of wanted to bring it back to what are these policies and what are these harmful elites doing to Black people specifically. So like what Maj said when he was talking about gun control being a racist institution, a lot of people don't know that, and Maj could definitely speak to it more than I can, but from what I've researched and from what I've seen, it was always a racist institution. It was always trying to get power away from Black people, from freedmen, from slaves, and it's still being used today. But this time it's not by the Ku Klux Klan, it's by racist Democrat elites. And yes, I do say the word racist because I believe they have this bigotry of low expectations that I think people have said that a lot, but they basically believe that we can just accept socialism, that we don't need our guns, that we trust them to protect us. Even though our Black neighborhoods are dangerous, they have low funding in schools, they have a high school to prison pipeline that is woven into the education system so deeply. I'm from Maryland. I'm close. I'm outside of DC and also an hour outside of Baltimore County. I viewed those public schools. I volunteer frequently in those public schools, and it's horrible. And this is just not something that comes across to me as non-racial, because it's a lot of Black kids suffering from it. And it's not necessarily, like I said, it's not necessarily some KKK guy. It's not necessarily David Duke up here, but it's people like Joe Biden and it's people like Maxine Waters who don't care about Black people. They just don't care. So my thing with the racism and the white supremacy, it comes back to another optics check, because we do have people on the right that are like, get off the plantation. There's no such thing as racism. Nothing is holding you back. Nothing is oppressing you. And then they will turn around and say, but the Democrats have you on a plantation and they're oppressing you. So can we just agree that there are harmful and racist institutions perpetrated by people in the Democratic Party, maybe even some people in the Republican Party, but they do exist, and we can come to a conclusion to work past this without getting all up in arms and becoming like a Black Lives Matter without rioting and stuff, because that's just playing into what they want. They want us to riot. They want us to be like, look at them. We need to take their guns away. They don't know what they're doing. That's what they want.
So let me touch on that just a quick bit.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick. And I want to just dovetail on what everybody's been saying, and especially about this, white supremacy thing. Yes, there are stuff that is racist in this world, that's racist in this country. But when I talk to people and I tell them about, because I'm here in Atlanta, and 27 years ago, I was literally sleeping on the streets of Atlanta, being robbed, beat up, shoes, socks taken, urinated on, about to give up on life. And every time I saw somebody, all the other homeless people, they were like, it's the white man's fault. It's the white man's fault we out here. But I'm like, all right, I'm fit to go get these jobs. I'm fit to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs to sit here and work my way out of this situation. And a lot of them are like, nah, I ain't finna do that because it's the white man's fault. It is always the white man's fault. So anyway, when I was going to work, they was calling me a sellout. When I was going to work, they was calling me, you just a slave for white people because you go into some white man's job. I said, no, I want to better myself. I want to pick myself up from this situation. I prayed to God first. I connect with people and I get to work. Okay, sometimes you can't help your circumstances on things that happen to you, but you definitely have the power of your response on how you move forward out of situations, out of garbage. But anyway, it wasn't white people that was on the street hunting down black homeless people, trying to recruit them for gangs. It was black kids killing people, trying to recruit them from gangs. And then when I say, once I moved out that situation and I got into politics, I said, if you want to talk about the hood, if you want to talk about things that's going on in our culture, you have to look at the leadership. Donald Trump has not been in command of the black culture for 60 years. The Republicans have not been in command of the black culture for 60 years. It has been the Democrat Party that has been in command of the black culture for 60 years. So if you are so upset with how the hood is, with how our culture is, you look at the leadership. You look at our so-called black leaders who co-sign on policies that kill us, that kill our children, that destroy our families. So-called black leaders, so-called black pastors, so-called black this, black that. You have to look at the leadership and lay the blame where it is. But above all of that, and I want to say to anybody that's watching, regardless of whatever has happened to you, instead of blaming white people for all of the problems in your world, start figuring out how to better yourself today. What can I do to improve myself today? And how can I fix my problems? Who can I connect with? And you will see, just off surprise, you will see it'll be white, black, Jew, Gentile. So many people will be there to connect with you to build your life. Instead of blaming white people and blaming white supremacy for everything, it is up to you to fix you. It's not the job of the president. It's not the job of anybody else to get you out of what you got going on.
I think
Thank you,
just real briefly.
Y'all see this? Is this like disrespectful? Do y'all think this is disrespectful?
No.
Okay, so when I do this, you've gone over your 2 minutes, okay?
All right. So real quick, I think what we're talking about is the balance between, there's I tweeted a few days ago, there's opposite ends of one spectrum, right? When you're talking about people that are still kind of asleep, the people that believe that we're in a post-racial America and that stuff was from the past, and it's only you, and the people that think that everything is race, right? There are some racist institutions. When John Rockefeller made the Department of Education, he wanted to have workers. Now that's a power play for sure. He doesn't care where the workers come from, but I want to create a Department of Education that informs people to be worker bees, not develop actual, solid communities, right? So when we're talking about redlining, when we're talking about the subprime mortgages of the late 90s, early 2000s. When we're talking about this was targeted. When we're talking about, again, the school to prison pipeline, this is targeted. This is not accidental. All right. So just because it operates, Michelle Alexander wrote a great book called The New Jim Crow. And I want to make sure that we're understanding that there is everything in America, every white person or whatever, or black person isn't racist. there are racist policies. So I think that by breaking down the policies from the financial perspective to the educational perspective to the cultural perspective, we acknowledge that those few exist, and some of those are powerful, but at the same time, there's also individual responsibility and accountability. I think that when we walk that balance between some things are racist or race-based, most things are not, recognize the ones that are, apply solutions based on voting with your dollar, voting with your local vote, and so forth and so on. I think we make more of a progress, and we're not blaming it on one person or one group of people.
We just need to demand solutions rather than go along with the get along and hate the president because they put every time I talk to somebody black about what's going on with politics or whatever, it goes, well, Trump did this and Trump said that, and how can you support Trump? It's not nice to Trump is the tool that is getting these illegals up out of here. Trump is the tool that is dealing with China finally. Trump is the tool that's going to take this country to the next level. So yes, I happen to be rocking with Trump right now because Trump is rocking with me, but it's not about me worshiping or praising Trump. So when I talk to black folks, it's like, yo, clearly the people that we are voting for, they ain't doing it for us. Look around. And all they got to tell you is Trump, is Trump, is Trump. This been before Trump. Like if we're going to go all the way back to what's his name, to Eric Zimmerman, the Zimmerman boy and all that back in the day, back in Florida, Obama was very much president at that time. Now, I don't understand why the CBC couldn't make some law then or do something then. But then, like I said before, we want to run Buttigieg, and now it's all Trump's fault. This is ridiculous. Black folks, we have to start demanding answers and demanding solutions from our own people. I tell black all the time, you hate Trump, fine. Then use that same energy you have for Trump, put it on your folk. You don't believe nothing Trump say? If Trump say it's raining outside, you got to step outside and go see it. Do that for Maxine for a week. Do that for the people that you
right.
for a week and find out what's really going on with your folk and then come back to me.
Right.
I want to say one thing, just as an artist, since this is what I do, like I create art, so I'm in culture, and we know politics is downstream from culture. So yes, the Democratic establishment is wicked. And yes, there's different people, even in the Republican establishment. And it's not the president's fault. It's not anyone else's fault. Does racism exist? Absolutely, it exists. Prejudice exists. I don't believe that evil has a color. I don't believe it's all white or it's all black or it's all whatever color. We know throughout history, many cultures have had slavery, have had evil, have been using people. It's money. Comes down to the bottom line. It was easy to have slaves of a certain color. That was very easy to see if someone was a slave and someone wasn't. They had dark skin. It came down to money. So when I talk to Black Americans who say, oh, white men is keeping me down or white supremacy, I'm like, where's the KKK? Are they hiding under your bed? Are they lynching people publicly? In some places, yeah, that stuff is still happening. But we live in a country that's gotten better, not worse. And if you really want to change things, you have to get active. You have to create. As an artist, I have to create a future I want to live in instead of going in the past. That's why I don't like to support all these movies about slavery. I'm like, can we see some happy Black families just maybe being lawyers and not fighting during the Jim Crow times? Like Black people did not just exist during the 1800s, the slaves, and in the 50s, because white man wouldn't let them do math. Right. Like, can we please see some successful people of color that their story doesn't depend upon their race? And because when I look around, when I look around, I don't see people who are using their race to get ahead, or it's keeping them down. Not in the artist industry. Again, I'm from New York. I've hustled. I've been through a lot, but my color has not let me down. My color has not kept me apart. I don't believe that a white man in the music industry can get more for being a white man than me being a woman of color. I just don't. If I believe that, I wouldn't have achieved all the success I have. Do I still face racism? Do I still face prejudice? Absolutely. It absolutely exists. Colorism to me is even worse right now amongst people of color. I get told on a daily basis, I don't count, or my opinion doesn't count because I'm not dark enough, or I'm too light, or I'm too dark, whatever. But colorism and prejudice within the Black community will keep people down way worse than whatever a white person's going to do, in my opinion.
Before you come in, Burgess, just thinking about what you were just saying, Joy, about things are getting better and not worse, and how you don't support a lot of the slave movies. I want to ask you all, Burgess, you can answer this as you also give us your latest statement. How do you feel that the media has sensationalized, or what part do you feel that the media has played in fueling racist or racist thoughts, you know, in fueling aggression towards Black people or allowing Black people to feel as if things are not getting better?
Yeah.
You know, what part do you feel that media has played in that?
It has a lot to do with it. And I'll say one of the things that, again, that we're going to find our way out of this situation as Americans, that no matter what race, color, breed, is we need to be able to think critically. You know, one of our founders said, ignorance and free can never be. And the left has known that. They're going after our community in a way that is sad to see. 75% in 2017 of Black boys in the state of California cannot read and write. They're not going to be part of the Space Course. They're not going to be part of our conversation we're having right now. You're going to turn on BET, which is owned by a white corporation, Democrats. The last 20 years has been throwing nothing but filth into our community. Anti-Black, anti-white, anti-police, anti-authority, anti-women, anti-family, you name it all. So what happens when you don't think? You emotionally, you just go with the emotions. You listen to what people say over and over again. The reason why people right now hate Trump, because they don't have no idea that he's led to the highest, how about this, 400% increase in business ownership the first 2 years in the Black community. That's powerful stuff. How about this, the lowest unemployment in Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, you name it. They don't hear that because you have a media that is truly nothing but propagandists. And what evil is available, guys. It's not just the guys with the white robes and the Black mask. It's those who hide behind the cowards and bullies that hide behind bureaucracies or hide behind the media, or hide behind Black faces on Black BET. And they put out nothing but filth that drives our community's self-esteem down. When we don't believe we can think, we think the only affirmative action we need is when it comes down to intelligence. We don't need affirmative action when it comes down to sports or music. Why? Because we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to be able to sing, dance, and entertain. Yeah. When it comes down to thinking for ourselves, we're not supposed to. And we have we've now turned our country to where the expectation of the high, what is it? The expectations of us doing our stuff and being able to think through it has been lowered so much that we all now accept it. We can't do that. This country is a place of second chances. Yeah. What was that?
The bigotry of low expectations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if we get our country, our Americans across the board, thinking again, I tell you, leftists don't have a chance, and they know that. That's why they hide within the educational system, like little bullies with their tenure and not being able to being fired, and they can teach our kids to do nothing in terms of thinking outside the box and proceeding through an experience the American dream for themselves. So yes, and media has a big play in it, but we're going to win this thing because we also can come together and have these kind of conversations and bit by bit get our race back on track to realize the American dream is available for all of us.
So my perspective on it is this.
Amen.
Media is the most effective devil in America. You know, and I got that acronym from the late, great El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, or most people will know as Malcolm X. Media will tell you something. I've been at the White House listening to President Trump in 2018. I was there for him addressing at the Youth Black Summit, right? I watched the whole presentation. I leave from the White House. I go back to my hotel. I have a meal, have a drink. It's already on television. It's on CNN. They cut, edited, copied, and pasted and spun that so fast and took it out of context. I was amazed. I'm like, the question that they said didn't go with the statement, that the clip that they put together. They took so many things out of context, things that were positive moments. And again, I'm a libertarian. I don't care what your presidential choice is. I treat politicians like I would hire a plumber. I hire you, you do a great job. I'll tell you what I need you to do. You're the expert. You do that, you do a horrible job, or you do a great job. You do a great job, I hire you again. If you don't,
I love that.
I get rid of you. I almost don't care if he's a great politician and he's showing his crack when he's bending over under the sink. I'm just not going to go in the bath. I'm not going to go in there while he's fixing it. But he's a great plumber, you know. So media puts that spin out there to make sure that this is a Tower of Babel. We're babbling at each other as opposed to communicating with each other. And I think, you know, that racist propaganda machine needs to be analyzed a bit in regards to how we can avoid those pitfalls like this conversation. We're not arguing with each other. We don't all see things the same. But I think that part is how we control media in that regard and use it to our benefit, not our detriment.
Right. There's also the money motive too, because I mean, the media makes money by making people spun up and crazy. Because my boss is a staunch liberal, and we argue all the time. He's just like, those Republicans, they all should die. They all should. And I was like, he says these things. I'm like, how much CNN did you watch today? Because clearly you watched a lot. Because that's the only thing that's going to make you wild out and act that way. And the Democrats know through their friends in the media. How many Democrats do we know have brothers, sons, cousins, wives, husbands, all in ABC, CBS, MSNBC? They're all on that one side. They know, especially for Black folks, especially exploiting Black trauma, putting out Black trauma stirs a need, not a need, but stirs a feeling in Black people and stirs up a narrative. That's why I say, once again, as Black conservatives, when we talk to Black liberals, let's stop acting like we weren't liberal 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? Let's stop acting like we can't relate to nobody. I get when you first become conservative, it's like my parents are ministers, they're watching. Hi, mommy, daddy. It's like when you first get saved and you like Jesus, 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 and everybody going to hell, and and you're like that. You get to the point where you're of so heavily minded, you have no earthly good, and you're obnoxious. I understand many of us were like that because I was that way in the beginning too, but I had to moderate and understand this is a process. And one thing that Candace Owens did say that I really appreciate one time I saw, she was saying that everybody who becomes conservative, there's a painful process you have to go through when you figure out that everything that you've always known was a lie. And that's not easy for people to get. So when you come to Black folk and say, well, Trump is this, and they look at you like, oh, no, you crazy, because everything they've ever known, all the media narrative, everything that's been pushed into them. And I'm speaking as someone who was a wokie. I was very much that person sitting in an M14 bus, seeing a protest and crying and all the stuff. And I was that person. But when you don't look through what those narratives are, what that stuff really means, the media can emotionally manipulate you. And unfortunately, many of us are emotionally manipulated by the media, not just Black folks, white folks too. Like, we're bugging out here because of media, unfortunately.
It's so cute.
Absolutely.
86 years old, and I'll hear her say, Trump is always tweeting crazy stuff. And I'm like, you're not on Twitter. So you have to be getting that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I would say media, absolutely. I want to jump in there just on this question because it's such a good one, but media absolutely manipulates people. Black Americans have been brainwashed by media. And I got to say, like, Black culture, when you say Black culture, what do we think of as Black culture? We think of hip hop. We don't think of like great hip hop. We don't think of the poets that started hip hop. We don't think of rock and roll that was started by Black Americans. We don't think of jazz. When you think of Black music, you think of the raunchy, I'm sorry to say, but the Cardi B's of today. I cannot stand that two-dimensional version of what a Black woman is. Or Nicki Minaj. I have nothing against these women. I've never met them, but they're in my industry. And yeah, they got their hustle, but at what cost? Augmented bodies being passed off as the real thing. That's not Black beauty. Fake this, fake that. Talking about your genitals all the time. You know, talking about, oh yeah, pay me for this, and I'm a big boss and all that stuff. And like, I am the opposite of a prude. I love dirty jokes. I am somebody, if you know me, like I cuss. I'm the opposite. But I'm like, there's one thing to be that way and to have humor with it. And it's an entirely other thing to sell this lifestyle to others, to go on stage and strip when you're 8 months pregnant and say, this is okay, to young little girls of color and say, this is what you should aspire to young Black boys of color. This is the kind of wife you want to get. It's not true. Gangbanging is glamorized. We have violence being glamorized. In the inner city, kids want to grow up and they want to be just like those heroes. We used to have Michael Jordan. We used to have, you know, really great leaders who were in the arts, who were very tame by today's standards. But now it's all about this lack of culture. It's not about being intelligent. It's not about going after or taking care of your family or being a dad. We used to have fathers that stay home. Now it's all about, hit it and quit it. I cannot stand that culture. And I tell you, this has nothing to do with religion or politics, it has everything to do with Black Americans and Black people who said, well, shit, excuse my French, I made money doing it, so I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to sell drugs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll to people as if this is the thing. And if we don't change anything, then nothing changes. Culturally, if nothing changes, then nothing will change. And Black Americans have to change the culture for themselves. And it's not by being social justice warriors and blaming others. We have to stand up and show and be who we want to be. Otherwise, the next generation will continue to be brainwashed.
Okay, and let me jump in here really quick, really quick, Benji. I'll be done real quick. Let me tell you just how powerful the media is and how it has infected the Black community. Now, I don't know if y'all remember, but several weeks ago, before the numbers were coming out about Black people catching coronavirus, there was a certain rapper here in Atlanta named Walkaway was saying, you know, Black people can't catch coronavirus. Okay, and the crazy thing is, so many people believed it because we were out in masks trying to help folks, and it was Black people downtown in Atlanta were not even wearing masks or doing anything. And I said, hey, you guys need to be careful about coronavirus. They said, well, Walker said we can't get coronavirus. I'm like, okay, so if Walker tell you to jump off a cliff, you're gonna jump off a cliff as the people are dying from a disease. And that is the manipulation that has been put into our communities for decades. And like I think the other brother was saying, how this is strategic. The fact that we idolize someone who can come up with a brilliant narrative of describing the death, destruction, and dysfunction of our culture and get paid millions of dollars to do it is staggering. The fact that they say you don't need this type of woman, you need a hoe, or you don't need this type of man, you need a dope boy. And you wonder why our families are dysfunctional when we have been telling children for at least 25 years that the best thing you can do as a Black man is to sell drugs. The best woman you can have is a hoe on the street, and the best man you can get, girl, is a dope boy, a soldier. And we wonder why. We wonder why. This media is very powerful, and Black people can't catch coronavirus. Waka flocka.
Well, I will say this to piggyback on what you said, YG. I mean, first of all, Walker ain't no doctor. Like, we still on the fence with Dr. Fauci right now. Walker definitely ain't no doctor. But Joy Villa, I will say this. I feel what you're saying, but you know, I'm very much a Barb, very much a Nicki Minaj fan, very much Nicki Minaj, Little Kim, all that ratchet stuff. And the thing is that, but I also just
Of course you are.
Of course I am, right. But of course, I also just listened to the Clark sisters before this came on. Like, I was raised in a religious home, like my parents and ministers, as I said, hi, mom and daddy. And, you know, Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go when they're old and not going to depart.
I'm not depart.
How people are, you know, people who I guess our kids look up to and whatever, but they never took the place of my parents. And I grew up in Brooklyn, in the hood, listening to all the old school Jay-Z, not new nappy head Jay-Z.
But can I just say something though? It's because you were raised right with good parents. Right. Most kids don't have that. Because me too. I'm not saying we can't have, I'm an equal opportunist. Yeah, we should still have people who are out there hoeing, fine. I don't give a hell. I listen to that stuff too sometimes. But it's disproportionately when you think of Black music. Where are the intelligent rappers? Where are the poets out there? Where are the authors that are lifted up just as highly as the ghetto superstars? That's what I see. I don't see
this is why the conversation about does white supremacy exist, because those forms of culture were co-opted. So when you have someone that comes in, this is a historically Black culture, Black music, right? If you're talking about, let's say, hip hop. Then someone comes in and makes it a commercial. Then they control or makes it seem as if they can control the art. They can control the art based on who takes the check and their marketing dollars and their budget and so forth and so on. Now, if they have, we don't know what other vested financial interests they have. I may want to make you sell this type of song because I have stock in prisons. You know, so this is where that conversation about, you know, is white supremacy the problem? Because I want to be clear. I'm not letting actual racists in position of power to attack America, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, Black Americans, white Americans. I'm not letting them off the hook that easy as if it's only our fault. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me that when all of the music at a certain point was stop the violence, increase the peace, be armed.
That's right.
MOP has a song called Calm Down where they saying we have the constitutional right to bear arms, to flare arms.
Ooh,
you know, so
that's right.
Existed. But when you shift the budget and you're talking about young people from the ghetto, don't nobody want to be a poor righteous teacher, and you shouldn't be. And then at the same time, those same people that have vested interests in, you know, prisons also, again, have a vested interest in, okay,
absolutely.
I want to make sure that the educational system is this way. I want to open up a new, you know, some horrible grocery stores in the
That's
community.
right.
So
pharmaceuticals. I want to drug everybody. I want everybody to feel like they have depression for being artists. For being this. Evil has no color. Absolutely.
Can I add a little perspective?
And that part is where we get into that conversation of, well, damn, if Jimmy Iovine at a certain point owned 60% of Black music, 60%, that is not Black culture.
No.
You know, and so I think from that perspective,
that's why I stay independent.
And the money part of it, it's like independent. I could sell 1 million copies of a single that I made in my closet and it catch.
That's right.
You know,
That's
and
right.
so I think that conversation about education, if you're in the arts, okay, put your art hat on and put your commerce hat on as well. You know, and so I think that's where it leaves the room for that conversation about, well, is this white supremacy? There is a delicate balance between individual responsibility and if there's evil, you know, as Joy is saying, there is evil in these places that has no attachment to the community and or the culture, and they will highlight, especially in the conservative movement, I see it a lot now, they will highlight people, call them conservative when they're actually statists and they have an individual agenda, and not to disrespect individual liberty, but they have an individual agenda to the detriment of the overall collective. So it's a balance. We got to approach that from, you know, a two-pronged approach.
I just want to, since I'm the moderator, I'm going to moderate us back to crime and justice in the Black community.
Sure.
Okay. And just to piggyback off of all of what you're saying, and Joy, I'm just grateful that I grew up in a different time, because if I had to have all of that extra stuff that they buy now, I would have never got a man, because I
Exactly.
But piggybacking on media, and Burgess, you can start this since you do have something to say. Is police brutality a danger to the Black community?
Okay. Can I do this? And I'll say this: if we start to have our kids not respecting, understanding, and this all starts with the family. There's a piece of respecting. There's also going to be bad people in any profession you get into. I want to share something that I grew up with. I happen to be a part of a very good family, but also had people like Martin Luther King. When you guys go back and look at the demonstrations, keep this in mind. They were not only fighting racism, they were fighting an image. Notice they have white shirts, black ties, jackets. They're articulate. They were making sure that the kids that were growing up behind them knew that they could command respect, because they can sit and talk with anyone. They can show what it was to have the discipline not to fight back if that's what they're going to do. It's going to come to us, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, we can point fingers all day long. When we want to change the Black community, we need to have more Black conservatives having the courage to stand strong and talk like we might agree on everything. But guess what? We're talking, we're getting people to think a little bit, and we need to protect those that are most innocent, the most at risk. Our kids that are not being educated. Our kids that are being pushed this nasty BET mess, because there's an agenda to turn our kids into hateful Americans. People who don't love our country, don't love the free market. And then you have people like Jay-Z. I'm going to tell you something. Those to me are traitors, because they made the millions and millions of dollars, and they turn around and do not talk about what it takes to be successful in this country, and put out filth about women and about demeaning families. And meanwhile, they go out and live their own little lives in this little special middle class and upper class livelihood. So we have to, as Americans, we need to come together, continue to fight for the right, but have the courage to call those people out that are not for our fellow Americans. And for those who really do want their kids to have a better dream, they'll begin to listen to us. And we don't have to argue with them. They'll eventually find out that if they want hopefulness, they'll go in a different direction they've been in the last 60 years with the Democratic Party.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think I'm going to make some people mad with this. I'm a pretty big libertarian. I've been described as an anarchist sometimes. I don't agree with that, but it's usually when I reference police brutality and police corruption. A lot of people on the right love to criticize the government. They love to criticize Congress. They love to criticize the Senate, which is good. We should criticize them because they're working for us. But law enforcement is also working for us. And so it kind of ties back into the media, because I didn't really get to speak much to the media sensationalizing thing. Mm-hmm. But what's one of the biggest lies of the media? It's that gun control is needed because some crazy white man is going to shoot you, right? It's about some crazy white supremacist that's going to come in and shoot you, right? And so they use this to create a distrust of the police, even more so than it already was. But then here's the hypocrisy. It makes Black people give up their guns. So they're only policed by the police that they don't even trust, and gangs. And so then when we talk about police brutality and police corruption, in a lot of these places, in a lot of these Black hoods, in a lot of these places where gun control is at an all-time high, like in New York City and DC, where you can't get a gun license, it's controlled by, yeah, there's corrupt police and they're planting drugs and all that kind of stuff, but it's also because of the gangs that are there. And so when it's like, when the media is saying that some crazy little white boy is going to come and shoot you to trick you into taking away your guns, and you already don't like the police, why are you giving them your guns?
Right.
So to answer the question that Shamika asked, is police brutality, is police corruption a problem in the Black community? It's a problem in every community, I would say. I think that corrupt people thrive in a lawless place like that. I think corrupt people thrive in a democratic controlled ghetto where people can't fight back. I think there's a reason that corruption thrives in a place where there are strict gun laws where people can't shoot back. I've done a lot of research on this topic. There's been several instances of police versus citizen standoffs in white neighborhoods in rural farming communities where they have gun rights, and the police corruption is taken care of just like that, because they can't just run over people like they can in a Black community where there is socialism, where there is a lack of gun ownership, where there's a lack of fatherlessness, or a lack of fatherhood. So yes, it is an issue. It is a huge issue, but it's perpetuated and it's allowed by these policies, which people vote for, and they don't really understand why it's happening.
So Olivia, and go ahead, Maj, after this, but do you think that we're fostering a false fear of police, creating an unhealthy dynamic between police and the Black community?
I think the more that we fall into this white supremacy narrative, the more that we believe that all police are white supremacists, we end up giving more power to them. So whether or not they're corrupt or not, you end up giving the state more power. So there could be a neighborhood where they have the best police ever, but there could also be a neighborhood where they have the worst police ever. So the end result can vary. But I don't know if it's racist. I don't know if I would say it's white supremacist for police brutality to happen. I think it's more of the circumstances that we allow to happen. So the more we distrust, the more we think that someone's coming to get us, we kind of give more power to the police that we supposedly don't have a good relationship with.
I think that, so the short answer is yes, there is a police brutality problem in not only Black America, but actually more fervently in white America. Statistically, there's more police brutality cases, American citizens being killed by law enforcement in the white community. When we're talking about that media component, media sensationalizes the thing, and so they don't highlight the white cases, where law enforcement, because white Americans, especially the armed white Americans, would do something about it. So when you're saying, so that question also has to be, unpacked a bit. When you're saying is there a police brutality issue in America? We have just not long ago, the police had a no-knock raid on someone's home, was in the wrong home, killed a woman. The man that defended the house is still in jail. That is a police brutality problem. You have a scenario where law enforcement does not know the law, submits, you've seen the disposition of some law or ex-law enforcement officers when someone disagreed with them in a debate. They went to yelling and screaming, and I can only imagine what that type of mentality on the force does when someone that actually knows their rights does not want to comply. Let me be very clear what police officers are. Police officers are foot soldiers for the state, okay? When there's a law, at the end of that law, there's a person with a gun called a law enforcement officer to make you comply up until using the continuum of force up until the point of death. That's what law enforcement officers, force is like in the word, force you, okay? when you have a scenario where there are too many laws, because at the end of a law, there's somebody with a gun to kill you. When you keep making more and more laws, you have scenarios where average American citizens are breaking the laws just by living damn near. You have scenarios where you create financial incentives to, you got the state making deals with private prisons to say you have to keep a certain amount of people in this jail. That's not justice. So the ability of the foot soldiers to execute those orders is brutal. So when you're talking about the concept of, is there a problem with police brutality in urban America? Yes, it is. Especially when, again, we go back to Breonna Taylor's scenario. Rest in peace to her. The man that tried to defend the house with the police were wrong and killed her, shot her 8 times. That man that was being a man defending the home, because it was a no-knock raid, he is still in jail. Where are the good police officers saying this man needs to be out of jail? We got this wrong.
Right.
So, yes,
better than I could.
There's a problem with police brutality in America, and our white brothers and sisters should also be up in arms about that too. Any American killed. If law enforcement officers are chasing robberies, rapes, and homicides, I'm with them all day. He's a robber. He's a raper. He's unnecessarily killing, unjustifiably killing. Get him, guys. Get him, ladies. But when you're talking about someone didn't want to roll their window down,
right?
This is tyranny. And I want our white brothers and sisters to understand that too. That, like, again, that power don't just wait. Power is about power. If we just started the Black community, then cool, So that's my take on it.
Benji?
It worked.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I do believe there's an issue with police brutality, but I think that for a lot of us, especially in the Black community, and especially politically, we've gotten a lot caught into talking about the problem and not the solution. Police departments are run by mayors. So guess what? If you're in a city like New York, in which Eric Garner was killed as Democrat mayor, why did Black Democrats reelect de Blasio? Oh, because he said that it's about Trump and Trump is racist and the Republicans. Once again, if you want to change your police department, you have to stop being emotional, stop protesting, going up temper tantrums. Those things do nothing. No one cares about that. That's just something you let off steam and do nothing. Think about how your actual laws work in your community, and you have to stand in somebody's political way to get your way. That's how you get your way. That's why I want Black folks to know the system. You're not helpless. But the thing is that these Democrats, you don't stand in their way. You go out there and you march and you do their bidding. Oh, look at them marching. Obama loved to see you march. Maxine loved to see you march, because guess what? When you ain't marching, you ain't looking at them. So he can do Obamagate and all the other mess that Obama did that we're now finding out because we were too busy out marching while we were actually not looking at what he was doing. So once again, if you are tired of police brutality, Black Americans, it ain't Trump's fault. Trump don't control one police department but the FBI, and he wasn't even controlling that. Look what all has happened with that foolishness. So if you actually want to control your police department, look at your Democrat mayor, your city council person, and say, look, guess what? I'm not scared of Trump or some Republican. And when you're not going to run that game on me, guess what? You got to get out here and fix it. These police are out here brutalizing our citizens. Fix it or you ain't getting reelected. And we have to get some political courage, Black folks, to be able to say we can rock with the other side if we have to do what we have to do. I tell my Black Democrat friends all the time, guess what? Somebody got to be a Black Republican. This is a two-party system. If anything, me over here, you call me a coon, I'm making your Democrats better, because now they got to get out here and work for these votes over here, because they're Black folks who aren't scared necessarily to go on the other side. The Democrat and Republican parties belong to all the people of the United States to use to our benefit. Republican, Democrat, I tell people all the time, they are like a mother and father who are divorced, and we are like the children. We work them against each other to get the things that we want. Political leverage, Black folk. Just because you vote for a Democrat, it's not a blood oath. Doesn't make you a Democrat forever or a Republican forever. My parents, Lord knows, these people have just switched over to Republican. My mother can't stand Donald Trump. Did not like his attitude, didn't like nothing. But guess what? Those policies, though, she's in Virginia. She saw what Northam was doing, though. What's going on with China, though? It's like, okay, well, clearly this is the best choice. So Black folks, if you want to stop police brutality, stop marching, because that mess is a waste of time. Figure out who your mayor is, who's in charge of police precinct or whoever, and get in the way of that person's re-election. I guarantee you'll see the change you want.
Can I bring just a real quick sports analogy? Everybody knows that the power of free agency. when we have 90% of our race voting for the same party, no matter what, whether we're capitalists or communists or whatever in between, it gives that one party a lot of power. Yeah. I would say this to my Black friends out there: don't worry about being a Republican. Be an independent. Vote your values and your principles. Vote what's best for your family and your community. If they're voting against you, if they will not let you choose the school you want to go to, they don't want you to get jobs that you need. You should have an opportunity to get. If they're doing everything they can to keep you down, whatever part of that is, vote against them. If we become political free agents, we have the strongest power to make sure our country goes in the right direction that we ever had before. So let's continue to talk. Let's continue to educate ourselves. And for those of you who understand the power of conservative values, let's stand up and have the courage to be called names, whatever it takes, because we need to get our country back. We do that by getting our Black community on track again, so we can go out there. And once we get off this plantation, come back to the abyss of socialism, our entire country comes back. So we have a big opportunity here to really make a difference moving forward.
Joy, I think you're sideways.
There we go, Joy. Thanks.
Thank you. So with that being said, and we're talking about the legislative side of everything, what about someone that is actually in the situation? What do we tell Black people when they're stopped by the police? Or what do you tell your children? Is it frowned upon to tell them to be subservient or to comply, to be submissive? What are we telling people to do when they are stopped?
Mm-hmm. I would love to jump in on that. Yes, know your rights. I agree. Know your rights, but also be respectful. Don't instigate something, because you could be dealing with someone who's a cop and who is racist. We know there's racist cops. We know that there's people who are prejudiced. We know that there's racist everybody. I do believe evil doesn't have a color, and it goes with the cop force. Whenever there's power, someone will seek to abuse it. And when you're a police officer, you seem to have a lot of power. And a lot of police officers can forget they work for us. You have to always remember taxpayer dollars pay their salary. So they work for you. Their job is to enforce the law. If you're breaking the law, that's on you. If you're not breaking the law, you can say, listen, officer, tell me what you saw. Tell me, was I going too fast? But be respectful. I would tell my kids, always be respectful. I was taught to address cops as officer. Officer, thank you very much for pulling me over. Thank you, officer. Just be respectful, because a lot of times just being polite will calm them down. They're used to being in high, tense situations. And if you are a person of color, you never know. It may spike them. It may set them off. Unfortunately, that's a fact of the matter. Sometimes we have to go above and beyond if you're a person of color, because we do see that happening. But I would tell my kids, if they were white, to be respectful to the police, because if we perpetrate this us against them mentality, it's only going to make things worse. I would say be respectful. Don't let your color shy away from being strong and being forthright, and always be able to say, know your rights, and be able to say, I'm going to talk to my lawyer if you fear anything.
Marsh looks like he's boiling on the inside. Mm-hmm. He's just waiting to say something.
Yeah. So I agree with Joy to a certain extent. Our founding fathers opposed tyranny. And I say our because this is my country. Regardless of how, the truth of the matter is, I don't know how my ancestors got here. I don't know if we were Choctaw or Iroquois and we was already here, or we got brought from the Caribbean. I don't know. With that being the case, this is mine now. Since this is my place and I'm afforded all of those opportunities and freedoms, I want to be very careful in how we approach that conversation about interacting with law enforcement. We tell our citizens to, be quiet and, and that's not, I'm not saying this is exactly what Joy's saying. Be quiet and, if you just don't make any sudden moves and do what they say, you won't get hurt. That's what we tell hostages. And I am a free man. I am no one's hostage. So the level of respect, absolutely. Respect is afforded to everyone. We have a code of conduct between law enforcement citizen interactions. If you've pulled me over, and if I know the rules of the matrix and or the state that I'm in, if you've pulled me over, hey, how you doing, officer? You know why I stopped you? No, actually, why did you stop me? Here's my license, my registration. We're going to move forward. We're not going to have this conversation about unreasonable searches and seizures. We are not going to have this conversation about things, but I think there's things that we can do linguistically that gives law enforcement officers an understanding. Because a lot of people say, oh, the cops don't know the law. Yeah, to a certain extent, they don't. But they do speak a certain form of legalese. And when you're having conversation with them about, you know, if they say, okay, we pulled you over because of the tail light. Okay, cool. Here's my license and registration. They come back, everything's cool. There's no, okay, we're going to check your car now. That's out of the option. You know, hey, officer, you know, I decline. I don't accept any unreasonable searches or seizure. You know, after doing things, you know, if I'm reaching for, you know, my ID or things of that nature, I end every sentence with, how would you like me to proceed? I want to give anyone, and not even just law enforcement officers, I want to give everyone the perceived position of power. So me giving that open-ended statement or you know, ending with that statement, you know, using words like, no, there's nothing unlawful in the vehicle, sir. Very militaristic language. People speak that language when they from that same tribe, you know, and I want to be careful there. I do not submit to, as an American, as a free man, I do not submit to this notion that we are supposed to, I am subservient to no one. I'm also not attempting to make someone feel subservient to me, you know? So I think that walking that thin balance there between, like, you know, like you both were saying, knowing the law, knowing your rights, knowing the statutes, being respectful and moving forward and speaking in a language. Anyone that wants a lot of this, we touched a lot of this on our class.
That's exactly what I said. Just what you said, be respectful. It's a certain way you talk to them. I call it the teacher voice. Yes, officer, I'll get my license and registration for you. It's very calm. It's very controlled. You actually hold the power if you are controlled. If you flip out, go, why the hell did you pull me on? And give them attitude, they're human beings. They could pick that day to write you a ticket for no reason. It could be because of your color, could not be. It could be worse. They could pull out their gun on you for no reason. But these are human beings, and human beings are not perfect. So whether it's a person on the street or if it's a police officer, I'm going to maintain calm, cool, respect, and just like you said, respectful. So I'm like, well, what am I dealing with?
So Joe, we shouldn't get pulled over and say F the police. Is that what you're saying?
Probably not.
Joe, can I jump in? Can I jump in this real quick? Okay, this is going to be real quick. Now, I've worked in corporate and private and personal security for over 20 years. I've worked with FBI, I've worked with CIA, and I've worked with law enforcement across the country. And I will tell you this, even me, and I'm 6'2", 333 pounds, and I carry guns, okay? If I'm being pulled over by the police, it is about de-escalation, okay? De-escalation. And this isn't about being subservient to anyone. This is about, honestly, just as Joyce said, these are human beings. Because I have to understand, because I've been in situations where we are dealing with dangerous people and I'm working alongside of police and we don't know what this person is going to do. It doesn't matter what color their skin is. But I have to look at if they are approaching me in my vehicle and I am a very large and powerful man and I carry guns, they don't know if they're going to go home either. Just like I want to go home, they want to go home. So I always de-escalate. Good evening, officer. Good morning, officer. I always have my hands in clear view on the steering wheel. I make eye contact with them. I'm calm. I'm courteous with them. I'm not submissive, but I'm de-escalating the situation because the last thing I want him to feel is that there's this huge man in this car that can kill me if he gets his hands on me. I need to shoot this man. Now, yes, there are bad police. There are bad people in all walks of life. But if we are calm, we focus on de-escalation, and you talk to the officer, 9 times out of 10, not always, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to be on your way. Now, if you get a ticket that you don't agree with, you can fight that in court. Yeah. I would tell anyone, use your logic, use your common sense, but never approach anyone with a weapon. Never approach them hot and emotional. Always de-escalate because you are at a disadvantage. Even if you carry guns in your car, you are at a disadvantage because if you get hot with this person, and they decide that you are a threat to them and they take your life, yep, your family can sue and all that, but you're dead. Right. You're already gone. Right. So de-escalate the situation as always. Treat them with respect because they put their lives on the line. You could be the 10th person that they pulled over. You don't know what's been going on in that officer's life because they face death every single second. Every time they pull someone over, they have no idea if they're going to die or not. And that's not real until you live it.
Right.
Period. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And that's what I teach my children. And praise God by the fact that we're still here. I've been pulled over several times, even from cops with bad attitudes. But it's all about the de-escalation and living. If you got to go to court, you go to court, but you de-escalate that situation.
Let me just say this one thing. One thing, and I'm going to make it very short. This is what the left is not teaching our kids. They want death. They want harm. They want people going to jail so they can make a big deal of it. They use, abuse, and destroy and discard. That's what they do. So this is the message our kids need to have. And at the end of the day, it comes down to this: respect. We respect our elders, respect authority, we respect each other. And if we can control ourselves and realize it's all about how to win friends and influence people, we move ourselves ahead as we treat people the right way. And they like us versus not liking us. So
that's right.
Spot on.
Now, I'm
Hey,
going
Shamika, I hate to say, I just got to say, I have to get going here soon.
Right.
I got to drive back to LA. I'm out of town. I've really so much enjoyed this conversation. Are we going to go on much longer? I might have to jump off.
Whenever you have to go. We are past an hour. So I was just going to tell everybody, you all talk way too much. No, I'm just kidding.
We got big mouths.
But I was going to bring that 2 minutes down to 1 because there are a couple other things that I would like for us to touch on because this is crime and justice in the Black community before we go. So I don't want us to really leave without talking about some of the topics that I think are very important and held dear by the Black community. So Benji, say what you have to say, but also before you say that, I want you to also answer this question because it's the next one coming up. Is intraracial violence a true danger to our community? So say what you have to say and then grab that question.
Now you say intraracial, that's like the fancy way of saying black on black.
Yes.
Okay. That's cute. That's real cute. Okay. So, so this is what I was going to say mostly about the police situation. I won't go, we don't have much time, so I can't go into these stories, but I've told the story before. I'm a person who has been, stopped by stop and frisk when stop and frisk was a thing toward the end here in New York. And, the police, they wrongly stopped me, didn't check my ID, whole nine. I didn't wild out. I didn't go crazy. And at the end of the whole conversation, because I kept my peace and I finally got a female police officer, women are smarter than men using these situations, to check my ID, realized the officer was wrong. I, in turn, as citizen, cussed the officer out, reported him to the NYPD, and called Al Sharpton. All this in 2008. Why? Because I kept that myself down, did not OD, didn't wild out on the cop, even though the cop was obviously wrong. But in the day, you want to come out alive. Also, too, in 2020, we have these wonderful things called phones. You don't feel right getting pulled over, the camera is rolling. We got Instagram Live, Facebook Live. Be like, yo, y'all, I'm finna get pulled over. We about to make this a show right quick. And that's it. If cops need to know that we are watching them, they can't just do what they want to do. I tell citizens all the time, if you feel like you are in a way because of cops, get you a camera in your car. Because Lord knows, I was an Uber driver for 4 years. Cops would stop you all the time. Oh, you ran a stop sign. Knowing you didn't, but they know you're a cab driver and you can't fight it. They want to get money for tickets. So we have to arm ourselves as citizens in a way that we can as well. As far as black on black crime, yes, black on black crime is an issue. And unfortunately, it gets obscured when we have certain black conservatives who want to use that as a way to cover up for stuff that white folks did. But yes, black on black crime is definitely an issue in the black community. And I think that we as black people have to stop being soft on our own criminals, because in the day, we want to talk about white folks. We want to talk about white supremacy and all that stuff. And all that stuff is terrible and horrible. However, end of the day, we ain't killing more of us. No one's killing more of us than we are. And in our effort to not, want to have another black man put in jail, I live in the hood. I live in the South Bronx, East New York, Brooklyn. I've been in the hood my whole life. We know who the drug dealers are in the neighborhood. We know who the people are who are out here killing and shooting people. But it's like we don't want to report them because we don't want another black man in jail. But if you get in front of that black man's drug deal, he's going to kill you like it ain't nothing. So, and the thing is that we say that, but then we get a little money. We move to the white folks' neighborhood where they snitching. But in our neighborhood, is no snitching though. And these people, for black homeowners, all these drug dealers and vagrants, they bringing your property values down because they want to sell their drugs, and your home ain't worth crap and can't sell it. So it has to start amongst us black folk. We have to start telling our own, look, you can't be selling them drugs in our community. Great example. I'm a building manager here for a lot of buildings in the Bronx, and one of the buildings I manage, there was a crack deal that going on. I took the footage to the cops. Look, y'all gonna fix this crack deal. Y'all want to write tickets. Y'all want to throw black folks in jail. Y'all want to pull black folks. Oh, well, my black behind brings drug dealers to y'all as police officers. Y'all get off your ass and do something about it. I'm going to put it on Twitter and embarrass you, which I did.
Lower hand. Olivia, is that your hand raised? Oh, you're on mute. Unmute yourself.
Okay. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first, I agree with Benji. I agree with Maj. Like, I agree with everyone basically. But the thing about the interracial violence, I wanted to talk about the propaganda surrounding it. So when people say, oh, there's like a 90% interracial crime violence, like there's a 90% black on black crime, it's about proximity. There's an 86 or 88% white on white crime as well. And then when we talk about per capita, we can definitely talk about how there's a greater rate of crime per capita in the black community. And then when we break down the reason for that, we can trace that back to leftist policies, and we could trace that back to democratic policies. What I'm talking about is, I think the main reason that there is so much crime, why so many young black men choose a life or are forced into a life of gang violence or drug dealing and things like that, they need fathers. And this is not to say that black men are deadbeats. I have a black dad. I was raised by a black dad. I have a black granddad. The thing is, these black fathers have been systematically taken out of the homes by leftist policies. We have the war on drugs, a huge joint effort between the Republicans and the Democrats, to be honest. And it was purposeful. And then, like I said before, we have the high school to prison pipeline. We have private prisons that literally survive off of the backs of black men to take them out of the households. And then guess what happens when you take a black father out of the household? His sons do the same thing. His sons turn to gang banging. His sons do all this and do all that. So when we talk about this interracial violence, I think it's very purposeful. I think it's purposefully perpetrated by the Democratic and Republican elites. But I feel like right now it's more of the leftist policies because they create more of a reliance on the government. The government is their new daddy. You know, their daddy's in jail. They want the state to replace their parents, but the state isn't good at raising kids. Look at how the most democratic cities are run. Look at the gun violence. So back to my point, it's systematic. Black men and their violence, they're not deadbeats. It was not always this way. The crime is at a high right now. But in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I've done my research. I'm obviously not old enough to know what was going on back then. It was not like this. When my dad was growing up, it was not like this. When my grandfather was growing up, it was not like this. I think, here's my theory. I think after segregation ended, I think after Jim Crow ended, people started looking for a new way to control black people. And the way they did it is with private prisons, with gun control, with socialism, with liberal policies in general, with taking the black father out of the home, and it creates this huge crime problem. And that's my piece on that.
Crime is like Olivia said, crime is proximity.
Maj, Maj, I'm sorry. Before you start, because the next question I was going to direct it to you. So say what you have to say and then tag this. You said that your job is to arm urban America. And so I want to know why you believe that's necessary.
So one, in dealing with the question of black on black crime, the fact that there's not a standard, even though the percentages of, crime proximity, the fact that 80% of white on white crime exists and we don't have a term for it speaks to media manipulation again. You don't, even when you say the thing white on white crime, it's like, what? Yeah, because somebody told you the one, never acknowledging this side, even though with those statistics being similar. So that's a farce. I don't even submit to that logic. Crime is crime. If these same people that say, well, we're not black, you're not white, we're all American. Oh, but now you want to break down crime by race. So it's a huge contradiction in that regard. Now, as far as why I want to arm urban America, one, I'm a patriot of the highest order. I've committed my life to serving my community. And all of your values, beliefs, and that you have the ability to express those values, you have to have the means to defend them if someone doesn't want you to express them or even believe the way that you do. World history is littered with tyranny. World history is littered with people. You know, some of these phrases are not just cute phrases. They're like based in reality. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's the reason why this particular experiment called America has a system of checks and balances, you know. And the further away we get from that freedom balance system, the closer and closer we get to more and more statism, more tyranny, more authoritarianism, so forth and so on. With that being the case, at a certain point, it becomes very, very primal and very, very basic. I don't want to do something that you want me to do. I have the means to defend what I believe, and you cannot believe what I believe. The founding fathers to this nation, with their contradictions, knew that very, very well. That's the reason why the leftist universities are a cesspool, because they want to make sure that that's gone out of the educational system. There's a reason why civics is not taught in public schools right now, especially in those leftist areas. Mm-hmm. Accounting is not in the curriculum. So saying all of this to say, the way of arming urban Americans, which is the highest populations across the nation, big populations of people, New York, 8-9 million people, Florida, LA, all of these different places. These are the people that need to exercise their human right to defend themselves and their values, as well as keep government in check. You don't do that with just kind words or harsh letters. At a certain point, if you come in my house, like the brother that wanted to defend his house where those particular law enforcement officers killed that young lady, you have the right to defend your value system. And when we tie that lastly back into statistics, Chicago, the reason why that's not a talking point on the news so much is because Chicago's homicide rate has been going on the decline for the last 3 years. Over the last 10 years, as licenses to carry in these urban centers have gone up, violent crime, FBI stats, violent crime has decreased in the last decade, along with more guns and more responsible gun owners. An armed society is a polite society. What women are you raping if there's a 70% chance that, she could blow your head off, and rightfully so? So these are the reasons why my job at Black Guns Matter is to arm urban America. And everyone's welcome to not like that, but you're going to respect it regardless.
Did someone else have something?
Yeah, I was going to say this actually for March, because one of the things I like that you said from the beginning was that you were talking about the irresponsible gun use in the whole, Arbery matter. And one of the things that I brought out as well, I do want to be not to make it racial, but I do want to say, I'm really happy for all of, the white MAGA folks and all of it. We all have many white, let's be real, we all have many white followers on Twitter, Republicans. I mean, let's be honest. I'm so glad that so many of them, most of them actually, totally saw this for, the travesty that it was. But yes. I want to say for those of us who are Second Amendment opponents, and I'm, in New York City, and I'm for Second Amendment. I can't say I necessarily want Second Amendment here in New York, being here raised my whole life. Road rage is really a thing out here. I'm not sure about that. But I will say that, what did you feel? Because one of the things that I said when this whole thing happened was that for MAGA folks, all of our folks who follow us, for people who are Second Amendment opponents, people trying to push this narrative that, he deserved this or whatever, you're only giving the gun grabbers a really good talking point, especially in a place like Georgia where, you have Atlanta, which Georgia's the Empire State of the South. Atlanta's getting more and more with Tyler Perry Studios or whatever, more Democrats are moving there. And that state could turn blue in the next couple of election cycles. So what would you saying as far as the responsibility aspect of that?
Just as I saw certain people pretending to be conservatives, just as I saw them doing that and they were actually statists, I saw more people that were irresponsible gun owners. This is an AR. This is one of my ARs, right? This gun's been here the entire time. It didn't magically get up and shoot anybody. It didn't do any of that. I'm a responsible gun owner. In this safe behind me, there's a bunch of guns. Those people showcase themselves to be irresponsible gun owners. We are not the same. I don't care unless it's my child, and my crazy child, you might run back with my child if you kidnap my kid. You know what I'm saying? So unless it's my child, I'm not chasing anybody with an AR. I'm not chasing anybody with a Glock. I'm just not doing it. These people identified themselves as not, the mask fell. All I keep hearing in my head is the Future song, Mask Off. They masks just keep falling. They are not safe. If you're advocating to chase someone that you have no intimate knowledge of them actively doing a felony, robbery, rape, homicide, and you're chasing them so much so that you have to drive to them, then they're trying to go the other way and you're trying to block them off again. Then you jump out and you brandish your firearm. those people that would say, you know, well, he shouldn't have been in the location. Those people identifying your bias, you basically can't contain your bias behind your false patriotism. Mm-hmm. They ain't my people. I got tons of white dudes that do anything for me, right? I have respect in 100 sets across the country. You know what I mean? But if we ain't the same, we ain't the same. When I hear people that are statists pretending like they're conservatives, acting as if they speak for Black conservatives as well, and you're talking about that and ignoring the responsible gun owner component, because I'm even with chase them down. Cool. Don't take your gun. Follow them. Call the police. And I never call the police ever. I've never called the police in my life. You know, so that was the feel for me. It was sometimes, and I haven't really went on these people, you know, but sometimes the best way to see people is to not look at them, so they could be who they really is.
I think I would be an irresponsible gun owner, because the last time I had one, I earned the nickname Quick Draw. So I'm all for it. I'm just like, am I ready? You know, that was a few years ago. Like, am I really ready now? Because, you know.
Yeah. That disposition is great. If you know, it's no different than looking at, you know, anybody. If you know that you don't have that disposition, some of my friends are monsters. Like, yo, Maj, I'm clean, but you know, my attitude too tight for that. I can't handle a gun. I respect that. That's self-awareness. I'm all the way in for that.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, as far as guns, because I'm here in Georgia, and all the gun owners that I know, all the conservatives, like I said first, de-escalate. You have the power of life and death on your hip. Yep. De-escalate. If you are hot-headed, you are not ready to be a responsible gun owner. If you get offended real easy and your feelings hurt and you want to draw your gun because somebody pissed you off, you are not ready to be a responsible gun owner. Correct. Any responsible gun owner who watched that video or any of this going on would say, first of all, drawing your gun should never, ever be the first thing you do. If anything, if you can remove yourself from that situation first without drawing your weapon, you win. Everybody walks away alive, you win. But if you a hothead and you got something to prove, and I got this Glock, I got this 9, or I feel this way, you do not need to be having a gun, and you will not be a responsible gun owner, because then we get stuff like this. And I'm gonna say that.
Yeah. Right. And I just want to say, in my defense, you know, she said she had a gun, so I was going to shoot her before she shot me. Okay. So I want to read this, and Olivia, I want you to listen to this. Joy is gone, so this question is going to be on you. These are quotes from conservatives. One says, quote, "I'm trying to save you, but first, let me tell you that I refuse to identify with you and your culture. Now, vote Republican, mainstream Black conservatives." That was one quote. The next one is, someone said, "Stop relegating the Black experience to living in the hood, poverty, gang violence, and smoking weed. Stop telling me that because these things are not my reality, I don't have the proper experience or credentials to speak on Black issues. My credibility for being able to speak on these issues is being a Black woman in America." So I want to know, in reference, Olivia, to the sentiments expressed in these posts, as biracial, do you feel pressure to identify with Black culture, and what exactly does that mean?
That's a tough question. I'm glad you asked that, though, because I mean, growing up, it was weird. I didn't really notice I was biracial until I got to like 12, 13, because then people started asking questions like, are you adopted? Why is your mom white? Why is your dad Black? All that. And so I don't have an internal pressure to identify one way or the other. I grew up in a 2-parent household, you know, so I was surrounded by both cultures. It really comes from outside. And so when I go out into the world, I know I'm not going to be perceived as white. I know that no one's going to look at me and be like, yeah, she's white. Like, she would not have gone through this. But I also know that a lot of people won't view me as Black, and that's fine, because I do have two cultures. The thing with this whole discussion and how I kind of self-identify as a Black conservative is kind of interesting. I think it's mainly because I don't really choose how society views me, but just like how Obama was the first Black president, that's just how society views biracial people. I don't really have an issue with it. I do consider myself very, very pro-Black, and some people might have an issue with that by saying, oh, you're not fully Black, you can't be pro-Black, or you're half white, you're the oppressor, whatever. The thing about that is I do heavily identify with the Black community because I have a Black father, and Black fathers and Black men in general have been heavily demonized by certain policies. And I saw someone in the chat that wanted me to bring up how Reagan was very guilty in the war on drugs and demonized Black men, and I agree with that too. A lot of Republicans don't know that Reagan created the Mulford Act, which was a racist gun control policy back when he was the governor of California. So I just wanted to address that really quick. But yeah, I mean,
okay.
I think people think into it too much. It's not very complicated for me being biracial. I identify as Black and white. I'm very pro-Black. I care about Black politics. That's just it, I guess.
Is it important? I want to ask this question to everyone as we talk about solutions and get ready to close out. When it comes to, you know, issues in the Black community, I've heard someone say that absent fathers play a pivotal role in that, but I want to know, and attack also this whole Black culture thing. What does that mean? Like, what's the qualifications to being able to discuss Black issues? Is the input of white people accepted, or other races? Is that accepted? Like, what's the criteria that one must meet in order to have solutions?
Can I start off that, please, guys? Let me tell you, all my friends out there, particularly Black Americans, don't let the leftists turn you into racists, okay? Racist, bottom line, if you look at somebody's color first and define them based on your color, you are a racist. And let's be honest about it. Black and whites are the ones, and by the way, those who say Black's not capable of being racist, boy, do you have a very low esteem of who you are. We have the same emotions as anybody else out there. And we are Americans first. At the end of the day, let's talk about what's good for Americans. What's made the policies of Donald Trump over the last 3 years work? Because it weren't Black policies or white policies or American policies. Take away regulations. Let people go out and get a job. Let people get educated. If you care about your race, don't let races turn you into one. And at the end of the day, if you care about your race, it doesn't matter where the input comes in. It's all about experiences. If somebody can empathize with what you're going through because they've gone through the same thing, they've been going through poverty, they're going through whatever it might be, take the lesson from that, grow from it, and let us move forward. For those of you guys who are looking at this whole thing as black and white and will always be that way, you're part of the problem. And you're not going to be a part of our solution. That's unfortunately what the leftists has done the last 60 years. Turn Black people, who when I grew up, they were trying to command respect by showing how well they can do in every arena. And now we've turned around and allowed the last 60 years for us to be people who are begging for everything under the sun, pointing the finger at everybody else under the sun. For every mistake we make, let's look at ourselves as we're in America, the greatest place in the history of mankind. We have second chances. If you need to get a job, go out and educate yourself, work hard, work harder than the next guy. And guess what? If you are bringing more merit to that position, you're going to get the job. That's the way it is today. It's not 50 years ago. So let's cut off all this negative pushing people down or saying that we're not going to see it because of the color of our skin. Let's look at ourselves as being Americans first, and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think that as far as the question of representing Black people, I mean, there's more than one way to quote unquote be Black. I mean, we have like 40 million Black people in this country. Everybody has different experience. So I think that when you come and try to talk about Black issues, you bring your experiences and what you've gone through to the table. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's horrible for someone to say, you know, you can't speak for Black people because of this, or you can't speak for that. But I think that if you understand what Black issues are and what issues Black people are dealing with as a whole, as a collective, I mean, you should be recognizant of those. So if you have an experience that's not of the mainstream, you know, Black experience of people that are in the hood, I don't think it's for you to downplay that or down talk that. You speak from where you come from and from where your experience is. But I think that anybody who is Black, or even people who care about Black people to an extent, can speak on certain things to what level they can speak on them. But I obviously we don't believe in, the blackface, black voice foolishness of like Ayanna Pressley and the left, of course. But I don't think anybody who's Black should be barred from speaking from their experience.
Right. I know that I do that because I'm good for saying, oh, she would have been in county schools.
Right. Because even for myself, like I happen to be, I'm a staunch Trump person. I'm Trump out, Trump down. And, for most people, that would make me something different. But outside of that, I'm ratchet as hell. I'm loving hip hop all day. Real Housewives of Atlanta. I'm all the things, all the mainstream stuff that Black folk like. So I was talking about with Joy. I like Nicki. I like Kim. I like all that ratchet stuff that regular Black folks like. But I happen to be a person who knows about my country, who respects my country, and is also a Republican and respects the president at the same time. So I think there are just millions. There's 40 million different ways to be Black, and everybody's Black experience deserves respect.
Right. And I think it's important as we talk about being the voice of the community, there has been some Black people that say, I'm the voice of the Black community. You cannot be the voice of the Black community because there are many voices. And as you said, we've had different experiences. We have our own opinions. We all have our own brains. We think the way that we think. There are many voices of the Black community. So I just want to put that out there because we have some people that, brag about being the voice. You're not the voice, especially being half of the age of most of the people that, so we want to make that clear. No one is the voice of the Black conservative community. We all have our own way of thinking. Yes, YG?
Yeah, and I want to jump in. I also want to dovetail off of what Burgess was saying about us as Americans. And I've had the privilege of traveling around the world. I've gone to Africa. I've seen the poverty. I've seen people suffering around the world. And every time I go, they're like, YG, take me back to America with you. It's like coming back to America, the old Eddie Murphy film. And I even had women saying, we will marry you. You can take all 6 of us and we'll be your wives and just bring us back to America with you. And because people understand around the world that this truly is the greatest place that you can be in to become the greatest person, to become the greatest version of yourself. And when I'm traveling through the country and I'm going into Black churches in the Democrat areas and I'm talking to people and they're just complaining and they're saying, we hate this country. We hate white people. We hate this and we hate that. So much darkness and death. I say, have you ever traveled outside of your hood? Have you ever traveled outside of this country? Because if you're ever privileged to do that, you will see a great amount of suffering. And then when you come back home, you will realize just how many opportunities that you have to make something of yourself and fix the issues that you have. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that. But when a person realizes what we do have in this country and we're able to embrace others, just like Martin Luther King Jr. said, okay, you can't judge a person by their skin color, but by the content of their character. And that is what being an American is about. And that is honestly what people who believe in God is about. It's like, stop judging people off of this melanin. Stop it. Look at people as a human being. Connect with people and build yourself. Build your life for your children, your children's children, and many generations to come. That can and will happen if you apply yourself. Period. This is the greatest country in the world, hands down.
And we definitely just have to, as you said, travel and be more open to people, because I believe in keeping it naked. And I will honestly say that I have said to a white person, get that long nose out of Black business. But now that I have begun to meet people and just look past skin color, I realize that we have more in common than we do, than we have different. And so you just got to open your mind and stop being so closed off. And that's why I wanted to know, what does Black culture mean? And are we open to other people being able to, can we help each other? We say we're all in this together. Are we really? And are we open to being all in this together for real?
Yeah.
Benji, I have a question for you. And if anybody else wants to come in on this, this is the last question. How do you think Black Republicans or conservatives messaging around the Ahmaud Arbery case or any other issues held dear by the Black community, how does it affect people's perception of Trump?
It affects it the worst, actually. I mean, this is the thing that I tell Black folks and Black conservatives. If people are not going to trust Trump unless they trust us. It starts with us first. Black folks that we know, that we see, our friends, our cousins, our whatever, the people that we see on the internet or whatever, they have to see, okay, they talk about MAGA and Trump. How are Black people under Trump acting? How are Black people under Trump responding to the same issues that we've been dealing with in Black America? Which is so disappointing, because with the whole Arbery matter, as I said at the beginning of this broadcast, the Trump administration did amazing with it. As far as Trump's words on it were great. He can't set the right tone. Ivanka's words set the right tone. Even Sarah Huckabee Sanders set the right tone. But then you have like these rogue Black conservatives who are going way, way off to, I don't even know, I can't even say to the right. I don't know what that was. And not being empathetic to the fact that this was a man, not even just a Black man, but a man, period, whose life should not have been taken unlawfully. And to try, and I kind of get where they were coming from, because they're trying to fight against, the left-wing narrative and you want to own the libs and all that. But this is bigger than own the libs right now. This is about humanity and a person. And if the administration could see that, I don't understand how rogue Black conservatives can't see that. Like, you're going out of the realm of what even the administration is saying, and you're not being helpful. And if you cannot understand what Black folks are feeling after seeing all that we've been seeing and all that Black folks see on TV and what's put out in the media and all that, we understand the media and the fake news and all that, understanding all that, if you cannot understand how your brother or sister is feeling and understand how that type of rhetoric is going to disassociate people from the Republican Party, basically I look at this almost as like religion. If you're not out here witnessing nobody, if you're not out here bringing nobody in, if your words offend more Black people than bring them in, then you need to shut up, because you're not the person who just speak to Black issues, period. I will say that again and again and again. This was an open and shut case. This was an alley-oop. This was easy for Black conservatives. And unfortunately, Trump's words of saying this is a nice young man, his words of, comfort to the boy's mother and all this stuff, that's not what got to the Black community. What got to the Black community was rogue Black conservatives' words that totally ruined this whole thing and our whole perception. And it's really an L for everybody. I can't even just say it's just them, it's just whatever. The average Black person who's outside Twitter don't understand all our little intricacies and our little schisms and whatever. They just see Black conservative folk under Trump. They didn't care about Arbery, and it looks bad for everybody. It's an L for everyone, and it's not the administration's fault this time. It's us. So we have to make sure that our messaging is on point. We have a president to elect. To me, that's the most important thing. I need China for it. I need the illegals up out of here. I don't have time for this racial foolishness. They're running Biden. We know he's senile. We know that already. They have nothing else to do to defeat Trump or put out racial incidents. We need to be ready for this. And as Black conservatives, knowing this, we should be the first ones to respond, the first ones to reach out our brother and sister, and the first ones to stop allowing this foolishness to continue to fester. It's on us first. Once again, before I close, they will not trust Trump unless they can trust us first, period.
How can we find you, Benji? How can people find you?
Real Benji, or I want to thank everybody for having me here. This is a great discussion. If we don't all follow, I'm going to follow, and we're going to do that whole thing. BenjiIrby.com, BenjiIrby.com, Real Benji Irby on Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. I look forward to everybody, talking to everybody. I'm on YouTube too. Love everybody.
Olivia, I see your hand raised. Say what you have to say and then tell everyone how to find you.
All right, so I just wanted to pose a question basically and try to solve it a little bit myself. But when we see these conservatives, Black, white, or not, perpetuating these stereotypes and spreading this fake news, oh, he wasn't just he was a thief. He was coming after them to kill him. He was the aggressor. He kept coming back to steal. He keeps breaking into these houses. Who are they trying to impress? Because it's not Trump, because Trump didn't say that. And it's not the base, because the base didn't say that. So I want to know, who do they think they are influencing? What do they gain from that? Because they're the same type of people to say, wait till all the facts come out. And that's what I'm doing. So far, I believe he didn't deserve to die. I also don't believe that the McMichaels or whatever are necessarily white supremacists. I have no evidence of that. But a lot of people also don't have any evidence of that he was there to steal, or that I saw something that he was wearing Timberland boots, and that was the excuse that he wasn't really jogging. I see the craziest excuses. So I just want to know, like, who are you trying to appeal to? It's all about optics. And just like Benji said, it's all about optics. We are the people that they go to. We are the people that they see talking about this kind of stuff. So if I released a video and was like, this guy deserved to die, that's 10 less, that's 100 less votes for Trump. That's 100 less people that's on our side. Just because they want to look to see Black leaders. It's normal. They want to look and see Black leaders talking about Black issues. And then when we talk about it in a way that demeans Black people, that stereotypes Black people, that never gives them the benefit of the doubt, it's just not a good look. It's really not a good look. And I'm honestly not trying to call anyone out on this. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to do any drama with that. But I just want to ask, like, why? Like, why? Oh, also how to find me. Here, listen closely, because my last name is French, but it's RONDEAU Livia, and that's my Twitter handle. And then my YouTube channel is just Olivia Rondo. And y'all can answer that question, because I'm guilty when they say stuff like that.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Burgess, and then tell people
Okay.
how they can find you as well.
Okay. I'll tell you, we are, as I mentioned, I've been waiting for this day, guys, for 30 plus years, over 3 decades, to see other people, young people who get it, who can articulate themselves, that we can have debates like this. We might not agree on everything, but we all have the same end game, which is to move our country forward. Know that we're going to bring a lot more conservatives behind us. And I don't know, have you guys experienced, Benji hit it on the head earlier. I came on board 36 plus years ago, and boy, did I go to the right big time. I realized I've been lied to, and I didn't believe anything the left had to say. And I just untethered myself totally. And I finally came back to where I can really have conversations where it wasn't just pushing out my new thoughts, but actually getting people to understand and listen to me. End of the day, that's what it comes down to. We need to be patient. We need to realize that people coming on board, they want to hear the truth, but we have to also be patient and listen to them. Let's not, if you found somebody's closing down and not wanting to hear anymore, stop talking. Let's be friends. Let's make sure we keep that connection so that later on, when they want to have that conversation, they don't backstab because they realize this guy's crazy coming at them. So let's know that we're coming back home. We're a race now, coming back to our conservative values. Know that there are people following us with this, and let's just be careful not to have the pendulum swing so far that we're turning people off in the process. I can be reached at burgess4utah.com, and everything you find out from me there. I'll say this, I'm so privileged to be part of this process. Let's keep it up. This is going to continue to grow because people are walking away. And I love the fact we have courageous Americans across the board. We're all different, and we all have so many differences we can't even count on. But this is one thing for sure. We believe in our nation. We want to come together and make sure America is a great place for all of us. And I'm just thankful to be part of it. And thank you guys for stepping to the plate the way you've done. I really appreciate it.
Maj, I want you to click your gun 3 times and then tell us where we can find you.
Okay. So one, I'm gonna piggyback on Olivia's question and add to the conversation about who can speak on Black issues. Everyone can speak on Black issues. You can speak on them, but for me, in my view, it's no participation, no right to speak. And you can, but I don't really got to have no weight on that. And that line comes from Huey P. Newton: no participation, no right to speak. Do something in the community that you're critiquing and or clapping for. And when you do that, you earn the right to speak to me, or you earn at least the right for me to listen to you. So that's that. As far as these people are not conservatives. They're not, just like I'm saying that, again, the question was, why? Who are they if it's not helping spread that messaging into the urban demographic, and it's actually doing the opposite? You have an agenda. Your agenda, and it isn't leftist in the sense of the leftists hired them to do the opposite. It's the agenda of you're putting your own individual above the collective, the movement. Mm-hmm. That's not conservative. These people are statists. I'm telling y'all, they're with more government overreach. They're cool with, as long as, even, and I'm talking about all sides. You cool with the largest wealth transfer in American history, and you did not want to be recorded on that. There was one lone Republican a politician in DC that fought against that. That's the reality. And I'm not talking about every Republican. I'm saying that the people in those that are highlighted to these positions are not pushing conservative values. Conserve means you conserve. You don't print up a bunch of money and give it away and lead us into hyperinflation. So these people with these voices are people with voices, statists that may not even know what conservative principles are. You know, fame is very addictive, you know? So I think that's one part of it. And the other thing is, I don't care if I'm leading people to Trump. Conservative values exist beyond any administration. If you evaluate that, and if you see that these principles are in alignment for you, I'm willing to bet that liberty and conservative principles are definitely, I'm willing to put money on that they're definitely, you know, more beneficial to urban America, especially when we're looking at 50, 60 years of Democratic policies. Absolutely, I am willing to bet. You know, I'll throw my money on that on the roulette table. But for me, it ain't about one particular administration. There's things that I love what President Trump has done. But as a Second Amendment advocate, I am very critical. I am very critical of his stance on the Second Amendment. It has not been supportive of the Second Amendment. It has not been. And I think maybe he'll double down on that if he gets back in for the second term. And I'm here for that, you know. So I don't really care if the Blexit goes into the Republican Party. Just like, you know, the Elder Burgess was saying, you know, cool. Just have independent thoughts, and whatever, you know, your mind goes to based on what's good for you, your family, your community, and the collective, the individual and the collective, so be it. But again, these people are not conservatives, and I want us to stop identifying them as such until their actions reflect the definition. Again, the Ku Klux Klan identified themselves. They identified as a Christian organization. There was nothing Christ-like about the Ku Klux Klan. And if we're holding ourselves, the beautiful people in this platform right now, if we're holding ourselves to that understanding of objectivity and accountability and pulling each other's coat when one of us is being irresponsible, yo, bro, that ain't conservative. You know what I'm saying? And so we got to not be scared because we might offend somebody. You know, ain't no man on this team bigger than the team itself. You know, so or woman. You know, so to me, that's those perspectives there. You can speak on Black issues. You have more of a leg to stand on if you're actively active and presenting solutions to that. These people currently, their actions have identified them as statists, not conservatives. And I don't care where the Blexit takes you, but I know you just need to be getting up out that Democratic Party based on their policies for however long. Speaking about the KKK, that was a Democratic organization, by the way. So, you know, thank y'all for having me. I truly, truly appreciate this discourse in a civil and respectable manner. And everybody can follow me at Maj Toure, MAJTOURE on Twitter and Instagram. Official Black Guns Matter _ Maj Toure on Facebook.
So then if Brandon is watching, according to what Maj has just said, if you're active and you're doing something in that community, you can ignore the person on Twitter today that told you you don't have the right to speak about these things. Yeah. Because we want to thank you. We appreciate you for Walkaway. We appreciate you for lending us your platform tonight to have this very necessary discussion. I want to thank each and every one of you for, I'm coming to you, YG. I'm not forgetting about you. I want to thank each and every one of you for spending the last 2 hours with us. I want to thank everybody that took the time to tune in. We really appreciate you. Go to walkawaycampaign.com and you can find all the information about Walkaway. You can learn how to get involved, whether that's being in, you know, doing events or giving your money. Everything is appreciated. Again, thank you for everyone being here. I have been your host / moderator, Shamika Michelle. If you go to shamikamichelle.com, if you find me there, you can find me everywhere. YG is going to close us out with prayer. Tell us first how we can find you. And then I also want to let you know, YG, that the Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion part 2 started at 8. So don't make your prayer.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I won't do no preaching. Yeah. Okay, well, basically, you can find me at nightstorm.com. That's NYGHTSTORM.com. You can also find me on my YouTube channel, YG Nightstorm, Twitter at YG Nightstorm, and Facebook YG Nightstorm. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. If we can all bow our heads, please. Father, we humbly come to your throne of grace and mercy, first saying thank you. Thank you for this beautiful discussion of diverse people. And when I say diverse, diverse in thought, diverse in heart, diverse in mind. But above all things, Father, we are united within you. We are united as Americans, and we see each other as Americans. Though we have differences in skin colors and things and places that we have come from, but Father, we are here, and we thank you for all of our Black brothers and sisters, white brothers and sisters, Hispanic brothers and sisters, Asian brothers and sisters. We thank you for Walkaway. So Father, please bless Brandon Straka, Melissa, Libby, all of the staff of Walkaway, all of the members and the people who have followed Walkaway, and everybody in this panel and all of their fan bases and subscribers. Because at the end of the day, we are Americans and we love each other. And it's about time we started acting like it. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you again. Thank you, everybody.
Amen.
Thank you, Brandon Straka and the Walkaway campaign. Go to walkawaycampaign.com. Love you all.
Shamika, great job, Shamika. Good job.
Good job, Shamika.
Good job, Shamika.
Shamika.
Take care,
My
guys.
boo.
Take care, guys.
Have a good night. BenjiUrby.com.